Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. In this episode, we're turning our focus back to the front end. If you remember a couple episodes back, I said that when we are fixing, is it fixing a word? I think it is. When we are throwing on the front frame rail extensions, we said that we were going to use Lotus's metal bonding material that they use on the chassis of the car to bond those frame rail extensions to the existing frame rails. Well, I finally got my hands on some of that material. It was really hard to get, but it's here now. So now we need to break down the front end, all the pieces that we kind of temporarily mocked up and put in there, like the radiator and everything. Take it all off, put that material in there, the bonding material, slide the frame rails back on, bolt them on there for the last time, and then we can start putting some of the stuff on for good. So we'll install our radiator, and as much as we possibly can, fix the power steering leak, install a power steering cooler, and if we can get to it, I would love to start mocking up the front clamshell, and that's if we have enough time, we'll get there. This episode is also proudly sponsored by Audible. Audible is an awesome company. They have audiobooks and more. I'm gonna talk about it more later in the episode, but if you wanna get on the special offer right now, head over to audible.com/build, start your free 30-day trial, and pick up a free audiobook on the house. I'm not sure if it's my house or Audible's house, but it's free, so it doesn't matter. I picked up Game of Thrones. I'm loving it. I'm still listening to it. You guys go check it out, audible.com/build. All right, let's get to it. Stay tuned. All right, well, I backed the car out to give myself a little bit more working space here, but I just realized I might have signed myself up for a real long night. The shop has a little lip at the bottom, and I pushed the car over that lip, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to push it back, so I might have to do this whole thing tonight and get water back into the system so I can turn the car on and drive it back inside. So anyways, it's time to start working fast. I'm going to go ahead and just break down everything I can, get us closer to removing these frame rails. Alright, I got everything broken down, and the slip covers, the frame rail extensions slipped off. So my little redneck pulley method there, that these things slip on, but they're real snug. So that using my body weight to anchor that as I kind of wiggle them back and forth really helped a lot. So the next thing you got to do is prep the surface. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it up, and then I have these alcohol wipes, and I'll wipe everything down, and just you got to get everything as clean as possible before applying the adhesive. Alright, I got everything all cleaned up. I picked up this air-powered caulking gun a little bit back, ways back, because I know we're going to need to do a lot of caulking to apply the sides, and you got to do it fast. So I'm going to go ahead and give this thing a rip while we're here, because it's a relatively safe spot to have a lot of mess. So anyways, I'm just going to snip the front of this off, and then get to air caulking this baby back on here. I'm going to do one side at a time, that way it doesn't dry up while I'm trying to work with it. I'm going to try and run a relatively small bead. That's a pretty big one, because this is going to be really, really tight, and we don't need that much material on here. And now I realized I forgot to use the alcohol wipes, but luckily I did use alcohol on a rag to clean everything down. So I think we'll be fine. It was a very clean surface, and we did use alcohol, so I think that should be fine. These are probably just alcohol on a cloth anyway. It's probably the exact same stuff. There's something very, very pleasuring about bolting this whole thing back up and having it all fit exactly down to the point where you cannot see even gaps in these rails, so that is really cool. All right, we're back on, and now it's time to reinstall the radiator, except I am beat, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a night tonight, and I'm going to do that tomorrow. Well, it's a good thing I decided to take a break and call it a night. I'm clearly not thinking straight because we did not remember to paint the frame rail extensions. So the inside should be fine. It's going to be covered in that black goop on most parts anyways, and there's not going to be any way for water to get in there. I don't think it's really going to promote rust. But the outside does need to be painted. So when I get back tomorrow, I'll go ahead and mask off take off the front crash bar, mask off the rest of the car, and I will spray a coat of primer and sealer or whatever I need to on those frame rail extensions. But for now, my ticket to getting to call it a night is being able to push this thing back into the shop. Fingers crossed, really. Well, this is gonna be difficult. I swear this is not faked in any way, but I have to build a ramp to try and make the wheel not have to take this big lip into the shop. And the only thing I have to build it is a book. But guess what? Because of our sponsor, Audible, get a free 30-day trial and your own free audiobook at audible.com/build. See, I'm getting good at that. I can use this book to drive over it. Because they have it on audio. You don't need it in paperback anymore. Silly gooses. All right, this is the best shot I got. Shoulder shot. Oh my God, I'm so close. Remind me, just grab my favorite tool. We're in. Oh my God, I'm done. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, guys, what's up? We are back. I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of a breakdown. Once again, get everything off of the steel here. So I'm gonna remove the bolts, remove the front impact bar, and all this stuff. And then I'll go ahead and spray it. I'm gonna spray it with some rust protector paint. It's not a primer, it's a paint, but it's rust protector corrosion prevention paint. So I think that's gonna be the ticket for these things. Once we get that done, we can start mounting our radiator. Let's do it. We got our rails painted up and I threw the bolts in, and this is the first time I tightened them down a little bit. Not too tight, they don't need to be very tight to do their job, and everything's looking good. So it's time to move on to the power steering. So let me show you how we kind of rigged up our power steering and what we have to work with here. Let me throw the light on. Okay, so right here we have a bent line that runs up to this metal part and this metal part, and these are two parts of what was the cooler. The cooler ran in front of the AC compressor, which runs in front of the radiator, and just kind of ran across here. So in most cars you can run without a cooler by just bypassing it. In this car I suspect you could do the same, but I didn't want to do that, so I bought a new cooler. I actually bought a new kind of upgraded cooler, and in the time being we just threw this hose around here in a U shape and hose clamped it down, and that's what was spraying when we were doing our last drive. So the first thing that I want to fix is this piece right here. Now this is very important because it runs way deep into the car. It's something I definitely don't want to have to replace, and so I got to do this right. I got to do this correctly and not make it any worse is the most important part. It's actually flowing as it is right now, so yeah, don't make it worse. So I heard from a guy online that you can take a hose flaring kit, and this is a piece out of the hose flaring kit, and you can strap one of these around it that's the right diameter, and basically and once you tighten it down, basically it'll try and make the piece of pipe more round, obviously to match this, pushing the kinked part back together, kind of unkinking it. So that's what I'm going to try very slowly and very, very carefully to try and kind of round out that hose just a little bit. Where it sits right now is fine. How it works right now is perfectly fine. So all I'm trying to do is widen out this centerpiece a little bit more to get the correct amount of flow there. And then we can pull these parts off and wire them up to our improved cooler. All right, guys, we got our lines ready. Sometimes in a build, you just get to a spot and something just takes 3 or 4 times the amount of time it should have taken, and this is definitely one of those things. I flared out the ends of this metal too far, and it took forever to get the hose on there. But now I got it on there and I got them crimped on there. I'm confident it's going to be tight enough to hold the power steering pressure. So that's all good. Now the other ends of this go into our power steering cooler, which is right here. So this is like basically one of those channels was what the car had before. We're tripling that, and this will mount on top of the AC condenser. I actually accidentally called it a compressor earlier. It's the condenser. It's like a little radiator for the AC. That goes in front of our actual radiator, and then this goes in front of that. So next step is I gotta bolt these into the car, and then I'll mount them up to this. All right, you can see that we have our power steering cooler all wired up here. And the next thing we need to do is really focus on the radiator, because once I get the radiator in, I can turn the car on, which will get the power steering pump flowing, and that'll work some of the bubbles out and also allow us to do a pressure test on this unit. So yeah, it's time to go ahead and reinstall the radiator. It's a very, very hard install because it's like really, really in there. It's a technical install, so it's gonna take me quite a while, but I'm gonna do my best. Oh my God. Okay, I decided to get in a fight with the hose clamp and it took me 30 minutes to get on and I'm sweating bullets. Radiator's on, radiator's full, power steering thing is set up, so I'm gonna zip tie everything down, and I think I earned myself a little drive, so I'm gonna go for a drive and I'll come back and we'll check the status of the power steering cooler. An annoying end to a lot of work. So what happened is I was testing and kind of tuning on the power steering and kind of maxing out the left and right on the wheel turn, and then under high pressure we blew a hole in the line right here. Now, one thing that I did just remember as I blew a hole in this line is that this line was built for to be a transmission cooler, not to be a power steering cooler. So that might be the cause of this, but I don't know. I'm gonna do some research on what to do with it tomorrow. I'm gonna do some research on what to do with it tomorrow. It's about midnight tonight, so I gotta call it a day. I'll try and pick up a new part, so tomorrow we can work on this more. It'll probably be better in some way power steering cooler. I'm gonna try and search around and see if Lotus uses any other manufacturer's power steering cooler. That way maybe I can just bolt it onto those hard lines there, because that seems to be a very high pressure line apparently. So that's a bit of a bummer. We tried, worked a lot today on that, but I'm gonna just clean this up and call it a night. See you guys tomorrow. What's up, guys? We are back for another day, final day of this episode, working on this front end. It's about time to get to it. We ended last night on a little bit of a low note, but my excitement, my happiness level couldn't be higher. I learned a lot of stuff, and I want to get into that shortly. But first, I want to take a minute out to talk about our sponsor. This episode is proudly sponsored by Audible. Audible is an awesome company. They have an unmatched selection of audiobooks. They have original content like shows and news and comedy and all sorts of great stuff. And you can access it anywhere on your phone or on your tablet. I'm a big fan of using using it on my phone. I've been listening to George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. I've been listening to the first book of the series, and it's really fun because like my girlfriend is at home, she's reading it on paperback. I have it on the phone, and I can just like stay a little bit ahead of her all the time. I just listen because I'm in here in the shop, I'm on the grind a lot, or I'm in my car. And you know, when you're working on cars, your hands are busy, your eyes are busy, you can't hold a book and you can't read a physical book, but you can listen to a book. So I just throw it on the stereo in the shop, listen to the Game of Thrones book, and I love it. And they have, like I said, a huge selection of all sorts of awesome stuff. So I highly suggest you guys pause this episode right now and head over there and check it out. Go to audible.com/build and start your free 30-day trial and get a free audiobook. Again, that's audible.com/build. Head down there, get a book, you won't regret it. I love the company, I love the app, it's just awesome. Okay, so I need to go grab something out of the car and start cleaning up this mess that's under here that you guys can't see, and then let's talk about the next steps for this power steering line. All right, so you can see we made quite a mess with that power steering line. So last night when that line blew, it finally dawned on me that I was using a transmission fluid line, and that power steering can be a lot more pressure than that. So the deal is, and how that works is that power steering often has a high pressure line and a low pressure line. I'm not sure which one's which in this car, but they sell the cooling device for this car as just a high pressure rack. So transmission coolant line runs about 60-70 PSI. Power steering line runs like 600-700 PSI. So we missed a 0 there, and that's why we exploded that line. And you know, that's a bummer, but on BS for Build, I'm cool with anything as long as I learn from it. So I learned, and now we're gonna fix it. So last night that line blew at like 11:30 at night. I was really tired, and I had to clean the entire car because it actually went over a lot of stuff on the front of the car. So I got the front of the car cleaned up, and then I just left this for today. And so I'm gonna cover this stuff up and then get back to the car. And I went and bought hard lines, and the total cost of the hard line is really cheap. It's like $9. So I'm really excited, and I'm gonna try and fabricate my own power steering cooler, and I think it's gonna work out great. So give me like a half an hour to do this, and then we can start on that. All right, here's the strategy. So power steering cooler from Lotus is $100 and something part plus shipping, and we don't have time to wait for one of those. So I got brake lines, same exact diameter, definitely can hold the PSI of a high pressure line. So that is what we're gonna use. It's the same diameter, it's the same size. It just has male fittings on the end when it needs female. So obviously I'll have to cut this pipe, flare it, throw the female ones on that we had from the old power steering cooler, and then we gotta do a little bendy action to make it in the right shape. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mock up the AC compressed condenser onto the front of this. It lives right here, and that way we'll know where we need to place this, and then I'll grab my line bending tool, and we will come out a little bit, bend it into the right shape, and then I'll do all the cutting and flaring and hopefully bolt it on without any problems. Here goes nothing. All right, it's between 1 and 17 hours later, and I have a finished shape of a power steering cooler. So this lines up down there with those two things and kind of sits nicely against the AC condenser. I had to run down to the store and buy a pipe bending tool, another one, and I had to buy another pipe because I killed the first one. But it's all good. So now I just need to put the flanges on the end of this. So I gotta flange out this part, flare it out actually, flaring tool, flare that out, throw the flanges on first, or the whatever the hell they're called, the things that bolts into the power steering lines, and then we should be able to bolt this thing up and give it a try. Look, it's like almost pro. If you just imagine it like that, and it's like really good. All right, I did a little flaring, a little painting, a little removing of paint, and I have attached the two little end things on that then bolt up to down there. So it basically went female fittings on both of these, flared female fittings, and then the male fitting, male to male, goes in here and in here, and then that'll plug into the female fittings on the car. So get ready, this thing's about to get installed. All right, here's our power steering cooler installed. So next thing I gotta do is I'm just gonna fill the system back up, give her a crank, and see if we spring a leak or not. All right, so I gave it my first pass, and as soon as I turned the car on, we started squirting a little bit of fluid out because the flaring wasn't large enough. So I changed a couple things around, configured it. Fingers crossed that this one works though, because I'm running out of power steering fluid, so I don't know if I'm gonna get another shot if this one doesn't work. All right, we ran it through its paces and we got no leaks, as you can see on our floor dry stuff. After I did that second round, we got no leaks at all. Yeah, it could be a little bit more square, but it's good enough. This is a place that no one will see, so I'm really not that worried about it, and I'm happy. This cost us $8, well, $8 twice because I screwed up one of them, so $16 instead of about, I don't know, 120, and I don't got time to wait for Lotus World to ship me another one of these. So, awesome, that is done. All right guys, that's a wrap on this episode. I'm sorry we didn't get to move on to the front clamshell and the front bumper and the headlights and all that really fun stuff. In this episode, power steering took us a lot longer than we thought, but in the end, we bested it. 16 bucks to replace a $120 part, and I have no reason to not believe it's not every bit as good as the original part would have been. I think I might have got a double negative there, but oh well. You can, if you want more BS for Build, head over to facebook.com/BS for Build, and we are BS for Build on Instagram. If you like what we do here and you want to help support, head over to bsforbuild.com, scroll down to the shop, pick yourself up a t-shirt, a key tag. I haven't shown the key tags in a long time. They look like this, but they're much more new. Mine's a little worn out. These are awesome. They're also good luck. They come with keys that are really cool people on the keys that are attached to those. And we have hats and all sorts of great stuff on there. All the proceeds of that merch, it's designed by me, it's packaged by me, it's shipped by me. No third parties, that way all the proceeds go directly into the build. So if you bought a key tag, that money from that key tag went directly into that. Your money from that key tag might have bought that power steering cooler. How cool is that? Other ways you can support our sponsors. Please support people that support BS for Build. Head over to audible.com/build and start your free 30-day trial and get your first audiobook for free. Again, that's audible.com/build. I always do that thing with my hand. I like visually showing slashes. It's an addiction. Luckily, no more slashes. This is the part where I say thank you guys very much for watching and tuning in. Thanks for sticking it out. And please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. Peace!